Radhe Radhe. Today is Saturday, 15th April, 2023. And Mummy and I are here for this recap video for our continuing journey of Bhagavad Gita Recitation, where we just have finished chapter 8. So we'll be presenting the final 6 verses today of chapter 8. As I said, along with me is Mummy.
Radhe Radhe.
Bringing up the screen, we're going to have a rendition of the 6 verses. So chapter 8, verses 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28, followed by a few important words to learn, then a brief explanation for the verses, and then another round of rendition. So we'll get started with hearing chapter 8, verse 23 and beyond.
Chapter 8, verse 23. Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshabha agnirjyotir aha shuklaha षण्मासा उत्तरायणम् तत्र प्रयाता गच्छन्ति ब्रह्म विदो जनाः धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्णः षण्मासा दक्षिणायनम् तत्र चान्द्रमसं ज्योतिः योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते शुक्ल कृष्णे गति हुएते जगतः शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिम् अन्यया वर्तते पुनः नैते सृति पार्थ जानन् योगी मुह्यति कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सु चैव दानेषु यत् पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानम् उपैति चाद्यम्. So let's see some important words from each verse. We'll pick one word from each verse. So from verse number 23, let's look at the word anavritim. Anavritim means no return. Verse number 24, let's look at Uttarayanam. Uttarayanam means the sun's northern course. Verse 25, let's see the opposite of Uttarayanam, that means Dakshinayanam. Dakshinayanam means the sun's southern course. Verse number 26. We have to learn this word again and again. It is Shashvate. Shashvate means eternal. Verse number 27. Very important word. Sarveshu Kaleshu. That means always, at every point of time. And verse number 28, we'll learn Pradishtam. Pradishtam means is gained. So Krishna has given the formula how to live in this life and how to attain Golok. With that, I'll give it over to Gagan to explain the verses in short.
Yeah, thank you, Mummy. So chapter 8, verses 23, 24, 25, and 26, as you saw in the online version, they are in one block together. So we'll look at the explanation in one shot, but first the catchphrases. So chapter 8, verse 23, crossroads of death. Chapter 8, verse 24, liberation through light. In contrast, chapter 8, verse 25, delusion through darkness. And finally, chapter 8, verse 26, as a question, path ethic, or pathetic if you get rid of the H in the middle, strategically placed that way. So here first, what we see in this block of 4 verses is that Sri Krishna is telling for spiritual practitioners the 2 ways by which they might depart from this world. And clearly, he talks about, the sun, he talks about the northern and the southern course, he talks about smoke, he talks about light. All that is an allegorical reference encompassing light and darkness. So one of the paths is light or through light, which is where, as we mentioned, there is liberation through light. The latter part through darkness, through ignorance. So not having God consciousness. That path of darkness leads, of course, to delusion. So in the first path, that liberation through light, of course, one attains the supreme destination, that union, that yog with God, the supreme abode. In contrast, in the other one, still it's a Vedic practitioner, someone practicing Vedic rituals, but attached to material worldly rewards and fruits. For them, then, when they depart from this world, they will get rebirth. So then you're back again in the cycle of birth and death, which is therefore delusion. It's caused by darkness because it's obviously leading to that cycle of suffering. So again, that thought that we need to end with for that block of 4 verses is, what is the ethic perhaps we want to follow in terms of our path? Will it be the path of light, or will it be perhaps a pathetic way, which is the path of darkness? Moving ahead, chapter 8, verse 27, the catchphrase here is unceasing union. So again, building up from the prior 4 verses, Sri Krishna has mentioned that there are 2 diametrically opposite paths. Now, his recommendation clearly is to follow the path of light, which is to be a yogi. One may think, okay, that's good enough advice and it ends there. But as Swamiji stresses in the commentary, sarveshu kaleshu, as Mummy mentioned, always, at all times, that is extremely important. So always having that devotion to God, those thoughts of God, dedicating everything we perform for the pleasure and enjoyment of God, that is important when we say be a yogi. So Sri Krishna recommends to Arjun to be a yogi and at all times. Therefore, unceasing union, constant union with God. Concluding verse, chapter 8, verse 28, as a question, the catchphrase is farthest fruit. Sri Krishna mentions that you can practice a lot of important aspects of spirituality, such as austerity, charity, and so on. But what is essential is devotion to God. Swamiji in the commentary also provides a shloka as an example of that. One can practice all those elements, but well beyond that fruit, that material fruit or reward, Sri Krishna says, is perhaps what is known as the farthest fruit, which would of course be the supreme destination. But we put it here as a question because it's also a reminder to us that God is seated in our hearts. Right in our hearts, we have God. So in fact, very, very close and dear to us. So is it really the farthest fruit? Really, it depends on the spiritual endeavors we all will be putting in. But again, to conclude chapter 8, Sri Krishna says, not being bewildered, being a yogi at all times, such people certainly will attain that supreme abode. Once more, we shall now listen to all these 6 concluding verses of chapter 8, and perhaps also if there's any closing association that goes with that for chapter 8. So, Mummy, back to you.
Yeah, so before I start the rendition, I want you to look at the difference in the last verse. And in the last verse, number 28, we see that it has more syllables. That means 11 syllables per pada, total 44 syllables. And so the singing meter is going to be different. It will be sung in Tristub meter, and the other verses are in Anustup meter, because they have 8 times 4, 32 syllables. So 8 syllables in each pada. So they are going to be sung in Anustup meter. And at the end of the 28 verses, I'll be singing the closing prayer also. So let's go for it. Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshava agnirjyotir aha shuklaha shanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gachanti brahma brahma vido janaha धूमो रात्रिस्तथा कृष्णः षण्मासा दक्षिणायनम् तत्र चान्द्रमसं ज्योतिः योगी प्राप्य निवर्तते शुक्लकृष्णे गति हुएते जगतः शाश्वते मते एकया यात्यनावृत्तिम् अन्यया वर्तते पुनः नैते सृति पार्थ जानन् योगी मुह्यति कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु योगयुक्तो भवार्जुन वेदेषु यज्ञेषु तपस्सु चैव दानेषु यत् पुण्यफलं प्रदिष्टम् अत्येति तत्सर्वमिदं विदित्वा योगी परं स्थानम् उपैति चाद्यम् ॐ तत्सद् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्ण अर्जुन संवादे अक्षर ब्रह्म योगो नाम अष्टमोऽध्यायः सर्वं श्रीकृष्ण अर्पणमस्तु हरिः ओम्. Hope that helps to revise the verses.
Indeed. Thank you, Mummy. So yeah, that does bring us to the end of chapter 8, the Bhagavad Gita recitation journey. We shall continue, of course, week after week. So we look forward to seeing all of you again next week, which is Saturday, 22nd April, 2023. As always, a reminder to find out whatever's next and confirmation on classes. Please do look at the description below for this video or other recap videos and join the JKYog community portal class page for this series if you already are not a part of that. That is where, references in addition to this recap video, as well as the slides that were shared, all that is available there week after week. And it's helpful for revision, reviewing your material over and over again. And as I mentioned, for real-time updates and messaging. Till then, of course, happy learning. So we look forward to seeing you again next Saturday, 22nd April, 2023. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.